Buenos dias. It's Miss Hare coming to you from 3rd grade. I'm so excited to get to be reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with you. Don't forget, a good book can warm your heart and your mind. Alright, let's read Chapter 8 and see what's going on. 2 more golden tickets found. Woohoo! That evening, Mr. Bucket's newspaper announced the finding of not only the 3rd golden ticket, but the 4th as well. 2 golden tickets found today, screamed the headlines. Only 1 more left. All right, said Grandpa Joe, when the whole family was gathered in the old people's room after supper. Let's hear who found them. The 3rd ticket, read Mr. Bucket, holding the newspaper up close to his face because his eyes were bad and he couldn't afford glasses. The 3rd ticket was found by Miss Violet Beauregard. There was great excitement in the Beauregard household when our reporter arrived to interview the lucky young lady. Cameras were clicking and flashbulbs were flashing, and people were pushing and jostling and trying to get a bit closer to the famous girl. And the famous girl was standing on a chair in the living room, waving the golden ticket madly at arm's length as though she were flagging a taxi. A taxi's kind of what an Uber is now. She was talking very fast and very loudly to everyone, but it was not easy to hear all that she said because she was chewing so ferociously upon a piece of gum at the same time. That's what she was doing. I'm a gum chewer normally, she shouted. But when I heard about these ticket things of Mr. Wonka's, I let off the gum and switched to candy bars in the hopes of striking lucky. Now, of course, I'm right back on gum. I just adore gum. I can't do without it. I munch on it all day long except for a few minutes at meal times when I take it out and stick it behind my ear for safekeeping. That's gross. Please don't do that. To tell you the honest truth, I simply wouldn't feel comfortable if I didn't have that little wedge of gum to chew on every moment of the day. I really wouldn't. My mother says it's not ladylike, and it looks ugly to see a girl's jaws going up and down like mine do all the time. But I don't agree. And who's she to criticize anyway? Because if you ask me, I'd say that her jaws are going up and down almost as much as mine are, just from yelling at me every minute of the day. Now, Violet, Miss Beauregard said from the corner in the room where she was standing on the piano to avoid being trampled by the mob. All right, Mother, keep your hair on, Miss Beauregard shouted. And now, she went on, turning to the reporters again, it may interest you to know that this piece of gum I'm chewing right at this moment is one I've been working on for over 3 months solid. That's a record, that is. It's beaten the record held by my best friend, Miss Cornelia Prizemetzel, and she was mad. It's my most treasured possession now, this piece of gum is. At night, I just stick it on the end of the bedpost, and it's as good as ever in the mornings. A bit hard at first, maybe, but it soon softens up again after I've given it a few chews. That's really gross. Before I started chewing for the world record, I used to change my piece of gum once a day. I used to do it in our elevator on the way home from school. Why the elevator? Because I like sticking the gooey piece that I just finished with on one of the elevator buttons. Then the next person who came along and pressed the button got my old gum on the end of his or her finger. Ha ha! And what a racket they kicked up, some of them. You get the best results with the women who have expensive gloves on. Oh yes, I'm thrilled to be going to Mr. Wonka's factory, and I understand that afterwards he's going to give me enough gum to last me for the rest of my whole life. Whoopee! Hooray! Beastly girl, said Grandma Josephine. Despicable, said Grandma Georgina. She'll come to stick you in one day, chewing all that gum. You'll see if she doesn't. And who got the 4th golden ticket, Daddy? Charlie asked. Now, let me see, said Mr. Bucket, peering at the newspaper again. Ah, yes, here we are. The 4th golden ticket, he read, was found by a boy called Mike TV. Another bad lot, I'll be bound, muttered Grandpa Josephine. Don't interrupt, Grandma, said Mrs. Bucket. The TV household, said Mr. Bucket, going on with his reading, was crammed with like all the others with excited visitors when our newspaper reporter arrived. But young Mike TV, the lucky winner, seemed extremely annoyed by all this business. Can't you fools see I'm watching television? He said angrily. I wish you wouldn't interrupt. The 9-year-old boy was seated before an enormous television set with his eyes glued to the screen, and he was watching a film in which one bunch of gangsters was shooting up another bunch of gangsters with machine guns. Mike TV himself had no less than 18 toy pistols of various sizes hanging from belts all around his body, and every now and then he would leap up into the air and fire off a dozen rounds from one of those of these little weapons. Boop, boop is what he was doing. There he is. You can see him. Quiet, he shouted when someone tried to ask him a question. Didn't I tell you not to interrupt? This show's an absolute whiz-banger. It's terrific. I watch it every day. I watch all of them every day, even with the crummy ones where there's no shooting. I like the gangsters best. They're terrific. Those gangsters, they're great. Especially when they start pumping each other full of lead or flashing the old stilettos or giving each other the 1, 2, 3 with their knuckle dusters. Oh boy, what I want to give to be doing that myself. It's the life. I tell you, it's terrific. That's quite enough, snapped Grandma Josephine. I can't bear to listen to it. Nor me, said Grandma Georgina. Do all these children behave like this nowadays? Like these little brats we've been hearing about? Of course not, said Mr. Bucket, smiling at the old lady in the bed. Some do, of course. In fact, quite a lot of them do. But not all. And now, there's only one ticket left, said Grandpa George. Quite so, sniffed Grandma Georgina. And just as sure as I'll be having cabbage soup for supper tomorrow, that ticket'll go to some nasty little beast who doesn't deserve it. Grandma Georgina doesn't seem to be too happy. All right, and what an interesting chapter that is. All right, going on. Chapter 9, Grandpa Joe takes a gamble. Dun, dun, dun. The next day, when Charlie came home from school and went to see his grandparents, he found that only Grandpa Joe was awake. The other three were all snoring loudly. Shh, whispered Grandpa Joe, and he beckoned Charlie to come closer. Charlie tiptoed over and stood beside the bed. The old man gave Charlie a sly grin, and then he started rummaging under his pillow with one hand, and with the other hand came out there was an ancient leather purse clutched in his fingers. Under the cover of the bedclothes, the old man opened the purse and tipped it upside down. Out fell a single silver 10-cent piece. It's my secret hoard, he whispered. The others don't know I have it, and now you and I are going to have one more fling at finding that last ticket. How about it, eh? But you'll have to help me. Are you sure you want to spend your money on that, Grandpa? Charlie whispered. Of course I'm sure, sputtered the old man excitedly. Don't stand there arguing. I'm just as crazy as you are to find that ticket. Here, take the money and run down to the street to the nearest store and buy the first Wonka candy bar you see and bring it straight back to me, and we'll open it together. Charlie took the little silver coin and slipped quickly out of the room. In 5 minutes, he was back. Have you got it? Whispered Grandpa Joe. His eyes were shining with excitement. Charlie nodded and held out the bar. Wonka's Nutty Crunch Surprise, it said on the wrapper. Good, the old man whispered, sitting up in the bed and rubbing his hands. Now, come over here and sit close to me and we'll open it together. Are you ready? Yes, Charlie said. I'm ready. All right, you tear off the first bit. No, Charlie said. You paid for it. You do it all. The man's fingers were trembling most terribly as they fumbled with the candy bar. We don't have a hope, really, he whispered, giggling a bit. You know we don't have a hope, don't you? Yes, Charlie said. I know that. They looked at each other and they both started giggling nervously. Mind you, said Grandpa Joe, there's just that tiny chance that it might be the one. Don't you agree? Yes, Charlie said. Of course. Why don't you open it, Grandpa? All in good time, my boy, all in good time. Which end do you think I'd open first? That corner, the one furthest from you. Just tear off a tiny bit, but not quite enough for us to see anything. Like that? Said the old man. Yes, now a little more. You finish it, said Grandpa Joe. I'm too nervous. No, Grandpa, you must do it yourself. Very well, then. Here goes. He tore off the wrapper, and they both stared at what lay underneath. It was a bar of candy. Nothing more. All at once, they both saw the funny side of the whole thing, and they burst into peals of laughter. What the heck's going on? Cried Grandma Josephine, waking up suddenly. Nothing, said Grandpa Joe. You go back to sleep. Darn it, I was rooting for them to get that golden ticket. All right, chapter 10, here we go. The family begins to starve. I don't think I'm going to like this chapter. So sad. All right, here we go. During the next 2 weeks, the weather turned very cold, kind of like we're having right now. For First came the snow. It began very suddenly one morning, just as Charlie Bucket was getting dressed for school. Standing by the window, he saw the huge flakes drifting slowly down out of an icy sky that was the color of steel. By evening, it lay 4 feet deep around the tiny house, and Mr. Bucket had to dig a path from the front door to the road. After the snow, there came a freezing gale that blew for days and days without stopping. And oh, how bitter cold it was. Everything that Charlie touched seemed to be made of ice, and each time he stepped outside the door, the wind was like a knife on his cheek. Inside the house, little jets of freezing air came rushing in through the sides of the windows and under the doors, and there was no place to go to escape them. The 4 old ones lay silent and huddled in their bed, trying to keep the cold out of their bones. The excitement over the golden ticket had long since been forgotten. Nobody in the family gave a thought now to anything except the 2 vital problems of trying to keep warm and trying to get enough to eat. There's something about very cold weather that gives one an enormous appetite. Most of us find ourselves beginning to crave rich steaming stews and hot apple pies and all kinds of delicious warming dishes. And because we all are a great deal luckier than we realize, we usually get what we want, or near enough. But Charlie Bucket never got what he wanted because the family couldn't afford it. And as the cold weather went on, he became ravenously and desperately hungry. Both bars of candy, the birthday one and the one Grandpa had bought, had long since been nibbled away, and all he got now were those thin, cabbagey meals 3 times a day. Then all at once, the meals became even thinner. The reason for this was that the toothpaste factory, that the place where Mr. Bucket worked, suddenly went out of business, had to close down. Quickly, Mr. Bucket tried to get another job, but he had no luck. In the end, the only way in which he managed to earn a few pennies was by shoveling snow in the streets, but it wasn't enough to buy even a quarter of the food that 7 people needed. The situation became desperate. Breakfast was a single slice of bread for each person now, and lunch was maybe a half a boiled potato. Slowly but surely, everybody in the house began to starve. It really makes us realize how lucky we are, huh? And every day, little Charlie Bucket, trudging through the snow on his way to school, would have to pass Mr. Willy Wonka's giant chocolate factory. And every day, as he came near to it, he would lift his small, pointed nose high and sniff the wonderful sweet smell of melting chocolate. Sometimes he would stand motionless outside the gates for several minutes on end, trying to take deep, swallowing breaths, as though he were trying to eat the smell itself. That child, said Grandpa Joe, poking his head up from under the blanket on an icy morning, that child has got to get more food. It doesn't matter about us. We're too old to bother with. But a growing boy, he can't go on like this. He's beginning to look like a skeleton. What can we do? Murmured Grandma Josephine miserably. He refuses to take any of ours. I hear his mother tried to slip him her own piece of bread on his plate at breakfast this morning, but he wouldn't touch it. He made her take it back. He's a fine little fellow, said Grandpa George. He deserves better than this. The cruel weather went on, and every day Charlie Bucket grew thinner and thinner. His face became frighteningly white and pinched, and the skin was drawn too tightly over his cheeks that you could see the shapes of his bones underneath. It seemed doubtful whether he could go on much longer like this without becoming dangerously ill. And now, very calmly, with that curious wisdom that seems to come so often with small children in times of hardship, he began to make little changes here and there in some of the things that he did, so that he could save his strength. In the mornings, he left his house 10 minutes earlier so that he could walk slowly to school without ever having to run. He sat quietly in the classroom during recess, resting himself, while the others rushed outdoors and threw snowballs and wrestled in the snow. Everything he did now, he did slowly and carefully to prevent exhaustion. Then, one afternoon, walking back home with the icy wind in his face and incidentally feeling hungrier than he'd ever felt before, his eyes were caught suddenly by a piece of paper that was lying in the gutter in the snow. The paper, it was of a greenish color, and there was something vaguely familiar about it. Charlie stepped off at the curb and went down to examine it. Part of it was buried under the snow, but he saw it at once what it was. It was a dollar bill. Quickly he looked around him. Had somebody just dropped it? No, that was impossible because of the way it was buried. Several people went hurrying past him on the sidewalk, and their chins sunk deep in the collars, the coats, their feet crunching the snow. None of them was searching for any money. None of them was taking the slightest notice of the small boy crouching in the gutter. Then it was his, this dollar. Could he bear it? Could he have it? Carefully, Charlie pulled it out from under the snow. It was damp and it was dirty, but otherwise it was perfect. A whole dollar. He held it tightly between his shivering fingers, gazing down at it. It meant one thing to him in that moment, only one thing. It meant food. Automatically, Charlie turned and began moving slowly to the nearest shop. It was only 10 paces away. It was a newspaper and stationery store, the kind that sells almost everything, including candy and cigars. And what would he do? He whispered quickly to himself. He would buy one luscious bar of candy and eat it all up, every bite of it, right then and there. And the rest of the money he would take straight back home and give it to his mother. Aw, that's so sad. But what a good boy to think of his family first. So what would you do if you found $1 on the street? Interesting. All right, thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing or hearing the rest of the story and see who's reading next. All right, BSC, have a great day.